Last time for the April Fool's Day we were filming Zaz Slavuta. Today, considering Ukrainian currency exchange rate, $3,000 is way too big sum of money for people who would like to buy it. That is why we have decided to address the issue more pragmatically. We found a real original classic car. Izh. Yeah, it is even older than I am. It has a couple nicknames. Pie or Heel, it is the lightest truck from the USSR, which served many different purposes.
Republikenbastion, es lebe vom Willen der Völker gegründet, die einige mächtige Sowjetunion.
Usually, when filming a test drive, we wash and clean the car for your viewing pleasure. This time we thought a typical owner of such a car would not bother himself buying special tire cleaner. Meanwhile, we are still rich enough to use a traditional tool which can be eaten and still make the tire shine. In 70s, 80s, this car was very popular in villages. It was used to transport potatoes as well as many other things. Moreover, those cars were popular among heads of collective farms. This very truck belonged to such a person, and this area around once was a model farm. However, today all the barns and its remains are in condition similar to this car. If you pay attention to our number plates, typical to those times, KX, pronounced KH, almost like Kalichvonia. In addition, those plates were called Kolokhati, near the house in Ukrainian. Later, in 90s, these cars became popular among merchants, transporting from shop to shop different goods, sunflower seeds, everything you can imagine, up to brooms and socks. When they came from small towns and villages to Kiev, those letters on number plates meant Kiev, Chovайся, Kiev, hideout, Ukrainian. With this car we have got original registration papers. They are really rare nowadays and cost more than a car itself. However, we have found something else. Certificate for stocks of MMM Company, wide-known financial pyramid. It is mentioned here the amount of stocks granted, 5,000. We were told those stocks could have been used to buy 2 such cars. Nevertheless, today this car in current condition can be bought for several tens or even fewer bottles of vodka. Depending on version, Izh could have from 2 to 6 seats. Not a lot of people know about export version Izh 27151 Elite Pickup, with extended bed exported to Latin America. This very truck can be considered as a natural hot rod. It's a perfect example of red look, to be precise. In test drive of Slavuta, we were saying foreigners could envy us for that car, and this case proves that thought even more. Red look car movement currently is very popular in Germany. Red looking is about artificial aging of car's exterior, making it look rusty, removing parts of bumpers, painting some elements to have old and worn-out looks. In our case, everything was done even before us. We didn't have to think about anything. Let's take rear end. The bed and lights make some typical noise while driving, making the car feel more alive. It feels like an organism which moves with you, lives with you, breathes with you. I think this is a case when there are no other options. Speaking of life, there is some moss growing on our car. Aside from natural rust, our car is environmentally friendly. I think many Germans, and not only Germans, will pay a lot for getting some moss growing on their cars because it's cool and non-trivial. Besides, the leaking radiator is watering the grass and nourishing the ground. This car can be called the greenest one, greener than Prius. Because there is some grass growing on its body, it produces oxygen by itself. Speaking about the body, it's needed to say that there should be a booth mounted on the bed. However, in our case, it is used to store firewood. That is why it's not here now, but it exists. Some people might say the fuel consumption is pretty high, its emissions don't meet any standards, and it's just hazardous to the environment. In reality, no one will use antifreeze, it's just plain water here. Because of the age, radiator is leaking, want it or not, you can do more useful things at a time, watering your lawn. Engine cooling is a crucially important part for Moskvich of any model and age. Yet it's still the second issue. You need to start the engine first. To do that, you need to know several tricks. You have to have such a jar all the time, and it doesn't contain what you're thinking of. All Moskvich owners know that to get the engine running, you need to add some petrol into the carburetor. Otherwise, because of faulty fuel pump, you will have few chances to start it. To do that, you have to remove the cover and remove the air filter. And spray some petrol. You don't have to use a lot of petrol, just enough for the start. Tall people will struggle trying to get into the cabin. As well as just sitting here. But it's not that important now. We need to start the engine. We have a wonderful tool here, a choke. It's up and running at last. Once again, if you're doing a cold start, choke should be fully out. If not, it simply won't start. A hot start doesn't need a choke, but a full throttle instead. By the way, why it has even started, considering the condition of the car? Because of the engine. It's almost a BMW power plant, just simplified. Its capacity is 1.5 liters and it consumes in current condition I think about 1.5 liters per every 10 kilometers. If comparing this car to the above-mentioned Slavuta, this one is better even despite its age. That's mainly because of the brakes. Slavuta has drums all around, which tend to overheat when driving aggressively. This car has disc brakes in front, regardless of the year of production, somewhere in 70s.
помимо BMW-шного.
Besides BMW-like engine, this car has BMW-style drivetrain with rear-wheel drive. Also, it has similarity with Lamborghini Diablo. No electronics, no safety systems, or even power steering. The same goes for air conditioner, only you and the car. Comfort features are presented by ventilation system, which allows getting almost a sea breeze. If you want to lower the temperature inside the car, you have to open a special device which lets air into the cabin. It's nothing like an air conditioner without any ionizers or anything like that. Just a clean air from the field inside the car at your disposal. But there is an important thing to remember. Not only Moskvich engines tend to overheat, but fuel pumps as well. That is why owners often switch on the heater, not even, but especially when it's 30 degrees above zero outside to prevent engine overheating. In such situation, it doesn't matter if you open the vent or it's closed, it's going to be hot as hell inside. You think adaptive headlights is a new feature? With age, our EJ has developed ability not to blind uncommon drivers. If you look closely, like many new cars, this one has adaptive headlights. The function is simple, they are not fixed properly. So when you lower the car, they will compensate changed angle and will shine a bit lower. Interior is designed in minimalistic style, almost like Tesla. Only one dial in front of the driver. Visibility is good as well, of course, if you were able to get in. Despite being rear-wheel drive only, Moskvich can surprise with its off-road capabilities and its soft and bit crank suspension. Almost like full-size American cars, only much smaller. So its suspension can be described as wobbly, as you can see, like a ship. Meanwhile, having springs in the back means you can load it with such stuff as you want and it won't drop. Body is spacious and functional. In our case, the bed needs special attention. It can serve different purposes. You can put several sacks of potatoes, but it has a different function as well. Our car has rear end fixed with chains, but if you free it, what I'm a bit afraid to do, not being really familiar with this car, it will fall down to the ground. That will allow the owner to earn some money by cleaning up snow from the road. If no kidding, this truck can be converted to El Camino style. The key is to use your hands, have a lot of patience and devote some free time. The latter doesn't seem to be a problem in our country. If needed, the bed can be transformed into firing point or mini pool or even a hot tub. May the peace be upon you, dear comrades and citizens. And yes, it's April Fool's Day as well, a professional holiday to someone.
Мы просто отдыхаем, рвется в бой москвич белый, с огнями синими, с пацанами пьяными, девчонками красивыми. Будем разрывать этот город мы на части. Белая Москва, сегодня пацаны у власти. Рев двигателя, рэп играет на салон. Все поворачивают головы, Лёха за рулем. Все кварталы города знают эти лица. Все кварталы города могли лишь удивиться.